All right, hey guys, OFD checking in here on a Friday. So guys, I did a video recently, a review of this, the SBBN035 Tuna, and I mentioned during that video that I was going to show the other Tuna watches in the collection and kind of talk about them, and a lot of you guys were really excited about that. People mentioned that they're actually into diving and whatnot, which I'll get out of the way, guys. I'm not into diving. I'm not a diver at all. Typical watch guy that collects dive watches because I love the way they look, but I'm not a diver in any way, shape, or form. But so I drug these watches out of the collection, guys, to talk about them. We've got the SNE498 here. Like I said, the SBBN035, the SNJ027, and the SBEP001. All different variations on the Tuna model or the Tuna style watch from Seiko. Now, I wanted to mention that Tuna styling and what we're talking about there. So I watched a video recently. It was very interesting because the narrator commented that the watches were named the Tuna because they looked like a tuna fish. And I've actually never heard that said before. My understanding, it's always been my understanding since these watches came out in the 80s, that they are called the Tuna because look at the case shape, guys. It looks like a little short tuna can. That's just the thing. So that's where the name really comes from. And again, there's numerous variations out there on the market. This little smattering here is by no means the full representation of what's available in the Seiko lineup, including special edition models. For pretty much every one of these has a special edition. That's the Seiko thing. You guys know that limited or special editions are a big thing with Seiko. But there's a lot available out there on the market. So I'm going to bring each one up here in front of the camera, talk really quickly about it, go through some specs, talk about the movement in the watch. But I'm going to go through it pretty quickly. There is a review up on my channel of each of these watches down below in the description of the video. If you open that description up, you'll see that I'll leave a link to each of the reviews of these watches and also a link to where you can purchase one of these watches on Amazon if you're interested. So let's go ahead and start with this one here. This is the Seiko SNE498. This is really kind of one of the modern representations of the original golden tunas from back in the 1980s. I think they first came out in about 1982. Now this is a solar version. They make various, or at least some newer automatic versions out there with some really great movements. But this is the solar movement. This is running the V157 movement from Seiko. So it's a solar movement. This opaque dial underneath there is actually a solar panel that collects light, including even just incandescent light for a while. Once you have this thing charged up to a full charge, which will take you a couple of days in bright sunlight, but once you have it charged up, it'll last you up to 6 months. 6 to 10 months is what they say on the website there. Now, the size on this watch, it is a big boy. All the tunas are big, but they wear surprisingly well. And towards the end of the video, we'll get each one of these on my 7-inch wrist and do a loom shot, of course. But size-wise, this one comes at 47 side to side. Interestingly enough, they're actually shorter lug to lug at 46 because the shroud on the case actually sticks out a little bit farther than the lugs. I've always found that really interesting. 12 millimeters of thickness because you're running a solar quartz movement in this watch, so it's going to stay relatively thin. And you have a 22 millimeter lug opening. So really, really nice setup on the watch. Of course, it has the 120 click bezel from Seiko. Everything really nice, and everything on this model lines up well. I do believe, if I'm not mistaken, that every one I have down here, everything lines up pretty good, which is surprising from Seiko. 4 o'clock crown, of course, keeping it comfortable. And underneath this minute hand, it does have date functionality with the V157. But lightweight polymer shroud on these watches keeps them lightweight. So that's the SNE498. These will cost you, I think, around $250 to $300. Again, I'll leave some links down below in the description where you guys can pick one of these or a variation of these watches up. So I'll set that down there. Here we have the SBBN035. This, of course, is from the Marine Master lineup. This is a stunning watch. I absolutely love this watch. It's one of my favorite watches in the collection since I picked it up recently. It gets a ton of wrist time. So what a lot of people call the Darth Tuna because of this blackout case, of course. These are available, like I said, in a number of different colorways. I knew there's a stainless one with blue on it that's recently come out, and it's a really, really beautiful watch. This is running a very impressive quartz movement, and this is a 7-jeweled movement, quartz movement, which is pretty rare to have that high of a jewel count in a quartz movement, but this is the 7C46 movement. So high torque quartz movement, going to get the job done, really designed as a professional diving timepiece. Honestly, if I was going to be a diver or I went diving or anything like that, this would probably be the first watch in the collection that I would grab to go out and do any kind of work like that. But very well done. Amazing, amazing loom on this watch. Sapphire crystal on the watch. It does have a little sapphire crystal up there protecting the loom pip up there, but just great, great looking watch overall. Getting into the size, very similar to the 498. You have a 47.6 lug to lug. Crazy, I measured this one at only 44, it's 47 side to side, not including the crown. 44 lug to lug is what I measure, which is really crazy thin. 15 millimeters of thickness from the case back to the top of the domed crystal on the watch, and again employing 22 millimeter lug openings. But this one is all steel, so this shroud on this watch is all steel, gives it quite a bit more heft overall than the SNE498 or any of the other watches, to be honest with you, because this is a full stainless steel shroud using some sort of proprietary, DLC type coating from Seiko, running a similar polymer style silicone style strap on the watch. These are super, super comfortable straps from Seiko. So now this next one coming up, guys, if you guys are fans of Arnold Schwarzenegger movies, of course, Commando and, all the other movies out there, Predator, he was wearing a Annie Digi Seiko watch. So these have gotten the term the Arnies. This is, of course, the SNJ027, the Patty edition with the Pepsi bezel. Really cool looking watch. Now, there's a lot of functionality on these watches. I'm not going to do the crowns and unscrew it, but you have stopwatch. You have dual time capabilities on this watch. You have a lot of different capabilities up here with this digital readout up at the top. So it's a really, really well put together watch. 120 click bezel. I didn't spend the bezel on the 0035 or 035. I got to do that for you guys. But 120 click on this one. Everything lines up really nicely. Again, on these watches, everything lines up very nice. Dimensions on this one's pretty big at 47 side to side. Now you can see the lugs on this one are very exposed and they come out well past the case. So this one does wear a little bit bigger on the wrist because of that. So you have 50 lug tip to lug tip. Comes in at 15 millimeters of thickness, probably because of the Annie Digi movement in this thing. It does have quite a thick case on it. Polymer is being used on the case shroud on this one. Stainless steel case, of course. Again, sticking to these new modern silicone style straps from Seiko that just are really, really comfortable to wear. This one also has the stainless steel keeper, as do the other models down there. So very cool looking watch. Again, these are available in so many different colorways out there. You can get the classic blacked out model, which is the one that looks very similar to the actual one that Arnold Schwarzenegger wore back in the day, but really, really cool watches. This is a very comfortable watch to wear because it's a lightweight case and everything. This is actually running the H851 movement. Again, 6 months power reserve. The biggest difference, of course, you have this digital readout up at the top compared to the V157, but both have very similar capabilities and whatnot, but good looking timepiece. So last but not least, and definitely the beast of the bunch, guys, this is the analog or the Digi Tuna from Seiko. So again, this is just the blackout model. This is the SBEP001. This is running the S802 movement, a digital movement, obviously from Seiko. Very cool watch, has tons of functionality on this watch. You got stopwatches, chronographs. You can recall the information you're saving. You have timer functions, alarm functions on the watch. You have solar readout that lets you know how much actual solar light you're picking up. Now we're under studio light, so it's barely getting anything. I think this reads up to 10. So really nice watch. You get the dual time readout just right here on the dial. So I've got this second time zone set for the East Coast. You can see you have your day and your date up there at the top. Guys can see the little hash marks around here. Well, that's where you're actually going to, and this bezel is it's so tough to turn, guys. Honestly, I got to actually use my fingernail to get it started. It's kind of weird. Once you get it started, it moves easy, but when it's in that 12 o'clock position, it is really hard to move. Now, you put it there, and these little hash marks will appear as it goes around there. So it actually is a very useful bezel. The bezel works exactly as it should. So I think I got a little smudge there trying to manipulate the bezel, but cool watches, very lightweight, extremely lightweight. This is pretty much all polymer. The case itself has a case back screw down, very similar to like a Casio or whatnot, a 200 meters water resistance. All of these watches, besides the professional, there is 300 meters, but these are 200 meter pro specs watches. So they're meant to get the job done. Go ahead and get this bezel back in place here. And very cool watches. Now let's go ahead and pause it for just a second. We'll get each one of these on my 7-inch wrist and see how they look, and then stick around, guys, for that loom shot. All right, in order of original appearance, here's the SNE498 on my 7-inch wrist. These silicone straps from Seiko, or these rubber silicone style straps, are super comfortable. The Tuna watches, even on my 7-inch wrist and these bigger cases of 47 millimeters, they really wear well because of the dimensions of the case itself, the short lug to lug. So they wear really well. These are super lightweight, of course, in these Solar series here. They feel more like a G-Shock than a, your regular standard watch you're used to wearing, but very tough watches, pro specs, models available, get the job done watch, 200-meter watch, so you can dive with this and everything. So let's put on the SBBN035. All right, now this one is, I have to say, my hands down favorite that I have as far as these Seiko watches and Seiko dive watches. Probably one of my favorites in the collection altogether, but a very nice watch, very get it done watch. It's a tool watch. This whole blacked out case really kind of screams just tool watch, but very cool. Now, I didn't show you guys the bezel on this in the video when I was showing, or in the previous portion when I was actually showcasing this watch. So there you guys go with the bezel, 120 click, lines up perfectly. But this, like I said, guys, is one of my favorite watches in the collection by far. The weight is definitely different. You're wearing this watch on the wrist. It's not as light as the Solar models out there with the polymer shrouds, but really cool. So let's throw on the next one. All right, now I will say that this one, the SNJ027, is probably the biggest wearing watch because of that lug-to-lug length. You can see how these lugs come out of the case, and it really gives the watch a larger dimension. Also with the bigger crowns on the watch, these are all screw-down crowns. These are actually pushers for the digital readout and display and whatnot, but it makes this watch wear a lot bigger on the wrist. It's lightweight, it's super lightweight, so it's very comfortable to wear, but it is a bigger watch and visibly looks larger on the wrist, especially with the presence of the pushers. But it's a classic Seiko watch. These are the Seiko Arnie series, and everyone loves these watches, myself included, and I'm really happy to have this one here in the group. So let's put on that big bad boy for the end. All right. So it's a big one. This is a beast. It's a really big watch. Very nice watch for sports and activity because it's super legible. You have all those chronograph functions, plus you have the bezel functionality, so you can time multiple things with it. It's super lightweight, like I said, so if you're doing mountain biking, hiking, climbing, anything like that, it's a really neat watch just because of the fact that it's very easily legible and it's not going to be, taking up a whole lot of weight on your wrist and much of a burden. So pushers are easy to access and everything on it. It is a 200-meter water-resistant watch, so you can pretty much do anything with it. And again, available in a bunch of different variations out there, available from Seiko. So let's go ahead and dim the lights and check out the lume on these watches. All right, well, I've got the lights down, guys, but I do have a big window in the back of the room there that's letting a bunch of light in. So hopefully we can get a good lume up on these. They're all Seiko watches, so you guys know they've got a ton of lume on them. Now, the Tuna is going to be a weird one because it's only got lume in one little tiny spot. But get these things all fired up and check out the lume on them. So pretty cool. I wanted to show you guys this. Most of them have the green lume, but look at the patty, how it's got the green hand and then the blue lume. And I also like the way the bezel insert is loomed up on the SNE498 to the 15-minute point. The lume monster of the bunch is going to be this guy. The SBBN035 is just sick. This watch, you put it on at night, and I've worn this watch is actually comfortable enough to wear to bed, but you wear it to bed, and it's super comfortable, but it just glows like a torch. It's literally like a flashlight on your wrist. More lume applied to this than I've seen on any other Seiko watch. This is funny. There's actually lume. It's hard to see, but the pip on this is lumed. See it glowing there? But other than that, the way this watch works is with the tap and you light it up. So the lume pip is actually useful because if you were diving with the watch or anything like this, with simply tapping the glass, you can see your hash marks there that you would be measuring with. So it's easy to see if you're needing time an event or diving event. Easy to use a timer there without actually pushing any buttons on the watch and compromising your waterproofness. So, all right, guys, that's been the Seiko Tuna lineup, guys. I hope you liked the video. If you've stuck around for this almost 14 minutes, I thank you. Give me a thumbs up down there at the bottom. There's links to other videos down below in the description, also Amazon links where you can pick up these watches. So thanks, guys. If you haven't joined or subscribed to the OFD channel, please do. And give me a thumbs up down there at the bottom if you like the video. Take care, guys.